The late 18th and early 19th century was a time of tremendous change, not only in the government and the identity of the United States, but also in its educational system. The education began to reflect the ideals and values of the American colonial leaders rather than the British monarchy. The purpose of education was now being focused on producing intelligent citizens who were knowledgeable of their individual freedoms and the democratic process. While this was an overarching view of education, the teaching and structure of this knowledge was approached differently from school to school. There were many different educational leaders who carried these values into our nation's new schools, each creating their own unique curriculum.
Before this revolutionary period, Latin schools had been the norm in British colonies. As the colonies began to create their own identity and be less influenced by Britain, leaders such as Ben Franklin developed a new curriculum. Instead of being focused on Latin and other classic studies, Franklin focused on the English language and practical skills in an effort to produce intelligent, productive citizens. Among the knowledge and skills taught in the class were agriculture, gardening, accounting, and mechanics. Reflecting the newly established government, Franklin Schools was democratically run and received some public funding. The school also went against the status quo by being a secular school that was not affiliated with a religious organization.
The foundation for the new curriculum of the American colonies was laid out for teachers and students through Noah Webster Speller. The textbook focused on economics, democratic ideals, culture, patriotism, morals, and religion. Like Ben Franklin, Sarah Pierce valued the idea that basic skills and knowledge should be learned. She was an advocate for women's education, not in the same sense as Ben Franklin's education for men. Pierce's curriculum emphasized teaching women the skills that fit their role in society as housewives, mothers, and caregivers. There were a few female seminaries that educated women for higher education and work outside the home, but these were very few.
Founding father Thomas Jefferson believed that education preserved liberty and maintained freedom. To ensure this, he believed that education should be public and provided to all. In 1779, he wrote the Bill for the General Diffusion of Knowledge, which pushed for state-controlled public education. Jefferson also believed in a more academic-focused curriculum rather than Franklin's focus on more practical skills. Jefferson believed that English grammar, Greek, Latin, geography, and advanced arithmetic should be taught. Unfortunately, his bill did not pass, but it set the pathway for America's future public school system.
While America made great progress in its educational system, minorities were still not receiving the same opportunities as the dominant culture. For the most part, women were not being taught in general or not taught at the same level as men. In the same regard, African Americans, most of whom were slaves during this time, and Native Americans were not being educated. There were some religious groups, such as the Quakers, who opened schools for these ostracized groups, but most were left in the dark.
Although the education system at this time had its faults, it was a step forward to modern public schooling. As America found its own identity, schools evolved and reflected these newly found democratic ideas.